Hello YouTube, this is David again, here with another video on car repair. Today we're going to do a 2003 Honda Civic. This tutorial covers I think from '01 to '05 Honda Civics, both coupe and sedans. This one is a coupe. Um, so I tried recording earlier, but the results weren't that great. Essentially, when I was driving and I was making left turns and straightening out from a hard left turn, for example, I would hear these loud clanking and banging noises around my footwell, as well as the passenger footwell, and also some vibrations. So seems pretty serious and pretty scary. But after doing research, I do believe that it is most likely the sway bar end link or stabilizer bar end link. I believe it's most likely the sway bar itself that's banging onto the end link because the bushings, just for a bit here, the grease inside is torn, allowing the ball joint to move around freely. I've already replaced the one on the rear passenger side, but I'm still having this noise, so it's most likely coming from the front passenger side now. So these sway bar end links, they're notorious, the nuts being very difficult to come off. So I'm going to do everything I can before actually trying to get a nut off to prepare it. I got PB Blaster with me. I'm going to saturate that to get the rust out. I'm going to use the end nut on these new ones to screw onto the old one, the old treads, try to get the rust out. That doesn't work. I'm prepared to use a long nose needle nose plier to go ahead and grip one end while I use my either socket set or my open wrenches over there to try to get that bolt off. If that doesn't work, I might have to saw off the bolt itself, which I hopefully will not come to that. So okay, well, let's get started here. First things first, you want to jack up the front of the car. Honda's graciously provided a great point for you to jack up just the entire front end. You know, you can't see it here, but there's an arrow. Let's see if I can show it here. There's an arrow. You can't see it, but anyways, there's an arrow underneath the cover pointing it, and if you just push this up a little, you'll see that it's a perfect jack point. So yeah, go ahead and jack that up. But even before we do that, you'll want to loosen up the nuts on the vehicle itself, because once you get it jacked up, you will not be able to get these bolts off because the wheels are going to rotate with it. So I already got these loose already. So these were new tires, so they were really hard to get off, and I don't have air tools. So a strategy you want to do if you don't have air tools like me to get these tight bolts off is if you go ahead and just put your a tire iron or tire wrench and go ahead and stock it in, and then just use your body weight, get to the tip of it, and then basically stand on it, and then keep doing it until it gets loose. Maximum effect, you'll want to put all your weight at the end, because the longer the bar, the farther away from this point, the more torque you're able to provide. Okay, let's go ahead and now make sure that's straight. Make sure we're at the correct point, which we are. Fantastic. Okay, well, let me get this car jacked up, and I'll check back with you guys. Okay, so as you see, I removed the wheel and tire. One good tip here is after removing it, make sure you slide it underneath your car. That way, if anything were to happen, you're safe, like me in California, where earthquakes can happen anytime. Just kidding. All right, one other tip I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention before, was that since I have a 6-shift car, I don't have a parking drive So make sure you put your gear into one, shift into first, because that way the car ain't gonna roll back. That's pretty important. All right, let's just take a look here what we have. This is your upper tie arm. I think that is boot's a little bit dry. I don't think that's clanking on anything, because if that were the case, you know, you would hear clanking when you turn it. It's got to be this guy here. So this is the Endlink that I'm talking about. So the boot's completely worn away, as you can see here. Let's see how much play. Oh wow, it has a lot of play actually. Yeah, that's quite a bit of play. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that has got to be replaced. Let's see how much play it's got. Okay, so let's go ahead and spray our PB blaster. Just set like that. Boy. Alright, let's let that soak in. Check back with you guys later. Hello everyone, this is David again. Yes, I know it is now nighttime. And yeah, well, I didn't quite plan it correctly, but it is winter time, so the sun goes down pretty fast. But long story short, I got the bottom one off pretty easy, just like the rear passenger side. For some reason, I always get lucky with the bottom ones. I mean, all I did was I took my breaker bar and I attached a was a 14 millimeter? Yes, right, 14 millimeter long socket on that, and that came loose. This top one, however, was pretty annoying. I must admit, it was more annoying than the rear passenger sway bar link. The reason why is not a lot of space here. These brake lines tend to get in the way, unfortunately. But then I tried a couple different things, and in the end, what worked out the best was this setup that I have here. So what I do is I have just a 14 millimeter open wrench, and I have it wedged. Let me show you guys. I have it wedged right in between here. Looks like the what is that? The steering bracket with the lower control arm. A little space here, and here I have my little contraption here. What it is it's basically a Allen head, an Allen socket, and I insert that into the Allen hole of the tread, and I have two extensions connected to my socket wrench. You don't need two extensions. It's just I found two extensions. It gives me access down here, where it gives me more degrees of freedom, you know, to move. And the reason why the box wrench is socketed here is because when I turn that the tread, you know, attached socket wrench clockwise, this box wrench is going to want, which is attached to the nut, also wants to rotate clockwise, right? So it goes to prevent that. And what happens is once I have it wedged right here in between here, between the steering column and the lower control arm, it gets trapped, or it gets stuck here while the treads are still moving with the socket wrench, right? So in that sense, I am treading out the bolt from the nut, yes, rather than the nut from the bolt. So yeah, I'm almost done here. Let me see. Yeah, fortunately, I can't really show it to you guys on while I'm doing it, but yeah, it definitely works. I mean, I see getting loose. I did everything PB blaster, and I cleaned up the treads. But yeah, this one was a hard one, man. So once again, here, you know what? Why don't I just take this out and show you guys what the contraption is. So it's a socket wrench with two extensions attached to a Allen wrench, Allen head, right? Now, ideally, you could also just use the normal hex wrenches, but I wasn't able to get enough torque onto those. I mean, this type of method also what I did on the rear passenger side, but there I had enough space to just use the Allen wrench, and I had enough, room to operate. This one I did not. So all right, let me check back with you guys once I get that top bolt off. You see, it's coming off. Oh wait, move my hand actually. There, it's off. Perfect. All right, so this guy's coming out now. There you have it. This little bugger, man, give me a hard time. All right, let's go ahead and put the new one in. All right, so I think we're in the home stretch here. So I left off with removing the old one and trying to put a new one in, right? For some reason, these newer ones on the front, they're really hard to manipulate the angle of these bolts, which direction they go, because it's not, how you say, completely, 180 degrees flat with the surfaces, right? There's a little bit of tilt to it, and I just couldn't get them in there, And, well, first off, if you're having this problem, you should probably take the old part, and you should probably compare that with the new part, just to make sure that they're identical. And in my case, yes, they are identical. Sometimes the old ones, right, you can easily manipulate, right? And that's the problem, it's just way too loose, you can lift with your hands. I mean, it's crazy, So, I mean, I tried using a crowbar on this bar here, so you want to manipulate this one to try to... My case was that the sway bar and the lower control arm, the holes are too tight, too close together, yeah? And they want to be farther apart, so how do you do that? So what I ended up doing is I got a second jack, and I just went ahead, this is a ball jack, and I just went up, and I kept on pushing the sway bar up, until I finally got good enough clearance, good enough distance, right, that I could finally slot the bolt in. So I just think they're flush now. Actually, just good. I can inspect it using my iPhone here, just to make sure. And that looks flush, so perfect. And I also kind of used a, I used a breaker bar to kind of encourage, I guess, the tread to go a certain direction. But after that, it worked, finally got these two bolts in. These boots are good. So now I'm gonna put the tire back on and then go for a test drive. So I think this concludes this tutorial for a sway bar Endlink. So once again, the tip here to get it in there is to get a second jack to push up the sway bar, and then also to when removing it, to go ahead and use the Allen wrench technique along with a box wrench and use counter rotation directions to get that out. So yeah, all right, YouTube, here's another video. Let me know if you have any comments, and like and subscribe. All right, good one, everyone.